We call Mars the graveyard of spacecraft, a lonely desert where our rovers can wander for decades in the dust. But compared to Venus, Mars is a playground. For 30 years, the Soviet Union fought an industrial war against our sister planet, sending machines forged from steel and titanium into a realm where the laws of physics seem to bend and break. These were not just delicate science instruments. They were tanks designed to survive the literal gates of hell. And for 30 years, the planet ate them alive. Venus is not the goddess of beauty depicted in ancient myths. It is the solar system's ultimate trap. It crushed their robots, melted their sensors, and swallowed their signals in the dark. But the Soviets were defined by a brutal refusal to quit. They kept coming back, feeding metal into the void, until they finally cracked the code of a world that burns hot enough to melt lead. But after fighting so hard to plant their feet on that scorching soil, why did humanity suddenly run away and never go back? To understand the Soviet obsession, you have to understand the profound ignorance of the 1960s. Back then, Venus was a mystery, wrapped in a shroud of thick, impenetrable clouds that hid the ground from every telescope on Earth. Astronomers didn't see a wasteland. They dreamed of a tropical paradise hidden below, a world of alien jungles, prehistoric swamps, or perhaps vast oceans waiting to be claimed. The Soviets aimed to claim the planet first, launching the Venera program with the confidence of conquerors. However, they were fundamentally unprepared for the monster waiting behind the curtain of the Venusian atmosphere. Their first scout, Venera 1, lost contact with mission control after only 7 days. This was followed by Venera 2, a flyby mission that suffered a catastrophic failure before it could get close enough to send back a single useful bit of data. Finally, Venera 3 became the first man-made object to impact another planet in 1966. But the victory was hollow. The probe hit the atmosphere and went dark instantly, leaving the surface a total mystery. 3 straight losses would have ended most programs, but the Soviets kept feeding metal into the void. It wasn't until 1967, with Venera 4, that the horror of the situation was finally realized. As the probe dropped into the atmosphere, it sent back data confirming the air was almost entirely carbon dioxide. But as it fell deeper, the sensors began to scream. The air on Venus isn't just gas. It is heavy, dense, and suffocating. Imagine standing a full kilometer underwater. That is the crushing weight of the Venusian atmosphere. Venera 4 was a masterpiece of its era, but it was designed for a planet that didn't exist. After 93 minutes of falling, the probe was crushed like an empty soda can before it ever saw the ground. The dream of a tropical paradise was officially dead. In its place was a global furnace. When NASA saw the data, temperatures double the boiling point of water and pressure that could pancake a submarine, they walked away and went to Mars instead. But the Soviets, they doubled down. As the Soviets prepared for their next assault, they discovered that the heat and pressure were only half the battle. They were heading into a chemical war zone. High above the surface, between 48 and 70 kilometers up, lies a permanent global shroud of clouds. These aren't made of life-giving water. They are composed of droplets of highly concentrated sulfuric acid. This acid is the result of sulfur dioxide, reacting with trace water vapor under the relentless bombardment of ultraviolet light. The weather on Venus features a terrifying phenomenon called virga. It actually rains sulfuric acid from the upper cloud decks, but the droplets never reach the rocks. As the acid falls into the searing heat of the lower atmosphere, it hits a wall of fire. Long before it can touch the ground, the heat, which stays a constant 475 degrees Celsius, evaporates the acid back into a corrosive gas. This creates a perpetual cycle of toxic mist that hangs over the planet like a veil of death. For the Soviet engineers, this meant every seal, every wire, and every lens had to be armored against a world that was literally trying to dissolve them. For the Venera 7 mission in 1970, the team engineered a descent module encased in a thick shell of hardened steel with an internal sphere forged from titanium. It was less like a traditional spacecraft and more like a heavy-duty submarine designed to fall through the sky. This Titan hit the atmosphere, but the heat was so punishing that the parachute melted during the descent. The probe dropped like a stone, slamming into the Venusian soil at a staggering 60 kilometers per hour. Inside the Soviet control room, the silence was deafening as the team prepared to mourn another wreck, another pile of expensive scrap metal lost to a hostile world. Yet, against all odds, a signal began to cut through the static. Lying on its side in the acidic dirt, Venera 7 was miraculously alive. For 23 minutes, it shouted its data back to Earth before the relentless heat finally fried its electronic brain. The numbers it sent back were terrifying, confirming a world hotter than a pizza oven and heavier than the deepest reaches of the ocean. The Soviets had survived the landing, and now they wanted to see the face of the devil itself. In 1975, Venera 9 achieved the impossible. It popped its lens cap and transmitted the first ever image from the surface of another planet. What it saw was a field of sharp, broken rocks, a landscape that was bleak, desolate, and utterly alien. But the true technical nightmare was the lens caps themselves. On several missions, the landers touched down perfectly, but the lens caps refused to eject due to the immense external pressure, leaving the multi-million-dollar missions blind on the surface. Then came the ultimate heartbreak of Venera 14. The lens cap finally ejected, but it landed directly under the soil testing probe. Instead of measuring the ancient Venusian soil, the machine spent its precious few minutes of life measuring the compressibility of its own lens cap. Despite these setbacks, the Soviets captured the true essence of Venus, a sky that was a sickly, bruised orange-yellow. This color comes from the sunlight filtering through those eternal clouds of sulfuric acid. In 1982, Venera 13 gave us the most haunting record of all. It turned on a microphone, capturing the first recording of sound on another planet, a low, haunting rumble of the Venusian wind. It is the sound of a world that is dead, yet violently alive. Around the base of the lander, jagged metal teeth were visible, stabilizers designed to keep the probe from spinning in the thick, soup-like air. And then there is the mystery of the Scorpion. Russian scientist Leonid Xanfomality noticed a strange black object in the Venera 13 photos that appeared to move between frames. He claimed it might be silicon-based life surviving in the furnace. While most experts dismissed it as a piece of a lens cap shifting in the wind, the question remains. On a planet where the air is as thick as water and the clouds rain acid, could something actually be crawling in the dark? Venera 14 was the last time we saw the forbidden surface of Venus. For over 40 years, we have left the ground alone, haunted by what the Soviets discovered. They didn't just find a desert. They found a nightmare of jagged rocks, orange skies, and screaming winds. Venus stands as a ghost, a terrifying warning of what Earth could become. Millions of years ago, Venus was Earth's true twin. It likely had vast blue oceans and a climate that could have supported life. But because Venus is closer to the Sun, the delicate balance was shattered. As the Sun's intensity grew, the oceans began to evaporate. This created a lethal feedback loop. The temperature climbed until the oceans boiled away, and the heat became so intense that it baked the very crust of the planet, paving the way for an atmosphere of acid and carbon. The Soviets fought a 30-year war to plant a flag in this hell, and they left the door open for us to wonder what else might be hidden in the gloom. After seeing what the Soviets faced, do you think the secrets hidden under those acid clouds are worth the risk of going back? Or should we leave this dead world to its shadows forever? Let me know in the comments below. If you think the story of Venus is strange, wait until you hear about the king of the solar system. We used to think we knew what Jupiter was made of, but new data is changing everything. Click on this video right here, and I'll see you in the dark.